We're breaking down the details hidden in the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. The trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home hit the internet today, and along with it being our first official look at the webhead's next solo outing, it was also full of hints, teases, and Easter eggs for both the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the wall crawler. Time's a-wastin'! So let's get into this. Now, before we suit up on today's Nerdist news, you should know that we'll be discussing potential spoilers and speculation on Spider-Man Far From Home and Avengers Endgame. So if you want to see the next few MCU films blind, you may want to say, I don't feel so good, to today's episode. Also, quick reminder, be sure to subscribe so that you can get all of our videos diving deep into everything DC, Marvel, Star Wars, and more. And now that that's over, let's do this! Starting with the obvious, according to the producers, Spider-Man Far From Home will take place minutes after the end of Avengers Endgame, and since the last time we saw Peter Parker and Nick Fury was them being dusted, it's safe to say that at some point in Avengers 4, the snap is reversed and all of our dusted MCU friends are brought back to life. Otherwise, Far From Home would just be a movie about everyone having allergies. Now on to the actual trailer. At the start of the trailer, we see Aunt May working at a New York City homeless shelter. Now this is a detail straight from the comics, with volunteer work being a part of her character since the late 2000s, and was even included in 2018's Spider-Man video game. We see that she is comfortable with his web-slinging ways, using him for PR, and later suggesting that Peter take his Spider-Man suit along for his European vacay. However, it appears that Peter decides to leave his suit in New York as he is a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But as we see in the international trailer, Aunt May decided to sneak Peter's crime-fighting gear into his suitcase along with a cute note that says, "You almost forgot this." And speaking of Peter's aunt, we also see a moment at the start of the trailer where Peter's superhero babysitter Happy Hogan has a flirty conversation with Aunt May at the homeless shelter. Fans of Homecoming may remember that Tony Stark played a big role in the film, and some fans believe that with the trailer featuring a little bit of Happy Hogan and 0 shots of Iron Man, that this trailer may have spilled the beans on if Tony Stark survives Avengers Endgame. Besides the absence of Tony Stark in the teaser, fans have also pointed out Happy Hogan is holding a giant novelty check from the Stark Relief Foundation that is signed by Pepper Potts and not Tony. Now, Potts is the co-founder of the foundation. It's not insane that she would also sign the donation checks, and this isn't irrefutable evidence of Tony Stark's death, but there might be something there. For the next few bits, you'll need to pull out your microscope because we've got a lot of small Easter eggs and references. When Peter is buying supplies for his European vacation, we see a shot of him in a bodega that was destroyed in Spider-Man Homecoming and rebuilt before the events of Far From Home. If we do our best CSI impression and enhance the image, we can even see a few framed newspaper clippings in the bodega that say things like Top Queen's Bodega destroyed in blast and Deli destroyed, which is a clear reference to its destruction in Homecoming. And speaking of destruction, later in the trailer, we see Spider-Man swinging in front of the remains of Avengers Tower, which looks like it's either being rebuilt or taken apart. At the end of Homecoming, Avengers Tower was dismantled as the Avengers headquarters was moved to upstate New York. Now this could just be construction finishing that job, or, and this is some serious speculation, some fans are hypothesizing that the former Avengers Tower is being converted into the Baxter Building, which is most known as the headquarters of the Fantastic Four. Hashtag Fantastic Phase 4.
That's what I'm talking about.
Next, we've got Peter Parker receiving his passport for his Euro trip. Besides showing us one of the most awkward passport photos in history, the passport also shows us that Peter Parker's birthday is the 10th of August. August 10th, 1962 is listed by Marvel as the release date of Amazing Fantasy number 15, which was the first appearance of Spider-Man in the comics. Now, it's also worth noting that unlike real-world passports, there are no years listed on Peter Parker's passport. We're sure this is because Marvel wants to avoid any more major timeline inconsistencies in their films. We're looking at you, Spider-Man Homecoming. Back to Peter Parker getting ready for his trip. We see that his suitcase is monogrammed BFP, which presumably stands for Benjamin F. Parker, also known as Peter Parker's Uncle Ben. Next up, we see Peter and friends boating through the canals of Venice, where in the background of this shot of Ned, we see a boat with ASM 212 painted on its side. This could be a reference to the comic Amazing Spider-Man 212, released in 1981, which gave us the first appearance of Hydra Man, but more on that in a minute. After the scene of Peter Parker and MJ flirting it up like awkward high schoolers, we see that the teens are staying at Hotel DeMatteis. That is most likely a reference to J.M. DeMatteis, a longtime Spider-Man comics writer most known for writing the famous 1980s arc Kraven's Last Hunt. We next get Nick Fury, who is up to his usual spy antics as he puts Ned Leeds to sleep and recruits Spider-Man for some sort of European mission. Back to Hydra Man. The teaser is filled with shots of Spider-Man, Nick Fury, and Maria Hill battling it out with what many people originally thought was Hydra Man, Molten Man, and a few other elemental-themed villains. As we covered on this show last month, it was revealed that those villains are actually the Elementals, an old-school Marvel Comics team of supervillains that also have elemental powers. In the trailer, we've got what looks like Magnum, the Earth-controlling elemental, fighting it out with Nick Fury and Maria Hill in a European city, Zephyr, the air elemental, doing damage on top of Tower Street in London, a scary shot of Hellfire, the fire elemental, and finally Hydron, the water elemental in Venice, Italy. Though the official story from Marvel is that those characters are the Elementals, the sly reference to Hydra Man earlier in the trailer leads us to believe that there might be more to the story than they're letting on. During this montage of action shots, we also get our first clean look at Spider-Man in his stealth suit. We had theorized earlier that part of this film would draw inspiration from the comic arc Secret War, where Nick Fury recruits several heroes to fight a bunch of B-listers in Europe after their powers were amped up. In that same arc, Fury also gives each of them, including Spider-Man, new Black Ops suits to go along with the mission. Could this theory still play out in Far From Home? We will have to wait and see. And finally, at the end of the trailer, we see Jake Gyllenhaal as classic Spider-Man villain Mysterio. And if you were a comics fan worried that we won't be seeing Mysterio complete with his classic fishbowl helmet, this trailer's got you covered. Mysterio was first introduced in The Amazing Spider-Man number 13 back in 1964, and though he appears to be a superpowered hero complete with Doctor Strange-style magic powers, assuming that the film at all follows the comics, Mysterio is actually not superpowered at all. He's a master of special effects and hypnotism that's known for using various gases to make his enemies see things that aren't really there. Now, this is all speculation, but we assume that in the film we'll be seeing Mysterio use his fake abilities to trick Fury and Spider-Man into thinking he is a hero, but will actually be the film's main villain. Something also worth noting, it was reported during filming that Michael Keaton's Vulture will be making an appearance in the film, and there's no sight of him in the trailer. Anyway, this trailer gave us a lot to chew on, and we can't wait to see the film when it hits theaters in July. But what do you folks think? Does this teaser have you more excited for Spider-Man Far From Home? How do you like Jake Gyllenhaal's take on Mysterio? And which do you prefer, the international trailer where Flash Thompson refers to Peter as a loser?
Sup, loser?
Or the US trailer where Flash calls him a dickwad?
Sup, dickwad?
Let's discuss. Be sure to like, subscribe, and mash that little bell to get notified when we go live with the show or drop a new video. And if you're looking to add a little more creepiness to your life, then make sure and tune into Bizarre States each week, where Andrew Bowser and I break down all the weirdest and creepiest news of the week. You can watch Bizarre States live on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific on Nerdist YouTube, Geek and Sundry's Twitch, or Alpha, or you can catch the podcast version for free wherever you get your podcasts.